Hello and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read-Along podcast, the bi-weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko and They Cry. We'll be discussing its narrative and themes, and our community of theater-going witches will watch us vicariously as we try and solve its various mysteries. Hope you all join us in this exciting journey as we delve into the witch's catbox. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on a one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our gamers, James Capelli, Hayley, and Becca. Welcome, y'all. So how was your game this week?
What's up, gamers? Welcome back to the cast.
You've been planning that this whole time, haven't you?
I'm more impressed by his alliteration. You might even say he has a bit of a vendetta.
I'm just glad we finally got to some gaming. Finally.
I'm happy we got some hard confirmations, even though I don't really enjoy just being told the answer. What else are you going to do at this point?
Yeah, so that's kind of what this is to a degree. It's like, okay, we're just going to tell you, all right, for some of this stuff at least. But yeah, we got to finally make some choices.
You all got to finally make some choices because in true me fashion, I am not up to date on our reading.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to be flying blind, which will be much like other people who are joining us along for the journey or who are just listening to this podcast with absolutely no context whatsoever of what Umineko is. Hello, I am in your shoes today.
Yeah, the classic podcast formula. You have one expert, some new readers, and someone who doesn't even do the reading at all and just is there. Yeah.
He just showed up.
If you've just been listening and you have no idea what the show is at this point, please let us know. I'd love to pick your brain.
We'll put you on the podcast, apparently. Equally qualified.
I called myself out to avoid this.
I'm interested to know what these hard confirmations are that you speak of, because I don't know, to me all of this still feels so ambiguous, but maybe I'm
we had one conversation that confirmed something we've theorized for a long time.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I forgot that was directly confirmed here.
And I felt, once again, quite vindicated. Yes, okay, great.
All right. Well, this week we are continuing episode 8 with about 3 hours of gaming. And then on the line, surely she was reliving this fun evening once more in her dreams. That is videos 137 to 138 of the YouTube playlist. If you've not got up to that point, go ahead and stop the podcast to catch up before joining us. Or if you're like Hayley, sure, that works too.
If you're going to be like Hayley, you have to vibe like Hayley, and good fucking luck.
Oh my God.
We give Hayley a hard time because we know that, like, it's just the way it is sometimes.
She can take it.
I can't compete with her aura, so I just have to, belittle myself in trying to belittle her. It's not flattering, but it is the truth.
I'm just happy she's
Y'all
here.
don't have to pretend. You don't have to give compliments now after shitting on me. It's fine. I know my place. I understand.
No, I'm very glad that everyone is still here. Well, except for Ben. Shame on you, Ben. Although Ben actually did the reading, so.
I mean, in a way, Ben is doing the reading out at a trivia night, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He's experiencing the real game in real life, so.
He's out in the cat box himself.
Wow.
Makes you think.
So profound.
All right. So, do we want to go and hop into the summary and get going?
I guess I can just give overarching feelings about the read so far.
Sure, yeah.
Which is that I didn't expect this to start giving me emotions the way it has in this reading specifically, right? You think it's just trivia, but it's just like I think Maria's last lines started to really suddenly hit me.
Yeah.
This just I'm getting the real vibe of what's going on here, and it's I'm probably going to be using this statement a lot throughout the rest of chapter 8. As a parent myself, this is even more difficult.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little teary-eyed just really thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it really hits home a lot of the themes of family and what it means and a lot of the lost aspects of that.
Yeah.
This episode's really hit or miss for me, personally. I think this reading especially, you kind of see a lot of the highs and lows of this chapter in it. Because you do get some really emotional, heartfelt stuff. And then you get some stuff that's just I don't know, did we need to spend time on this?
Yeah.
So it's a very odd chapter, I would say. Or I would say this section of the reading is very strange.
I mean, we've been doing this for 140 hours now, almost. And that's just the reading, if you're consistent with it. So to change that to an actual game, and the game is being all right, I'm going to make you think, not just to ascertain what's going on and understand my themes. I'm going to make you think about things, seemingly to get the true ending.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's definitely doing something. As I said many times before, this episode's doing something. And there are like thematic resonances with like, oh, you have to make a choice, and there's like implications that Angie has to make a choice, and there's kind of like an after party kind of feel to this whole section. Like the story is over, and now we're doing this extra bonus thing. So like there is some thematic resonance with the way that this chapter is handled. I don't know if it makes it worth it to have to do some of this stuff, because it is it's not the best quiz section in a game I've ever seen. It's okay.
I was definitely expecting more of these quizzes to like match and explain some of the magic tricks that we've seen in the questions art. Things that would be like, how did Kinzo theoretically escape his room? What's the deal with sheep and wolves like throughout? Which we kind of get that a little bit. What's the deal with Kanon in episode 2? So to just be like, no, this is just the 15 random trivia questions. It's just like, wow.
Yeah. There's a few that have a little bit of something thematically, but
yeah,
I think there's a missed opportunity here for sure.
Yeah. I was going to pretty much the same thought. Like, I just wish they had tied into the actual narrative more. And the only ones that really kind of connect to anything are Maria's being a wolf and sheep puzzle, but, not as much as George and Jessica's probability thing, which is going to come into play clearly in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'll also say, since we're kind of already talking about overall thoughts, the manga handles this chapter very differently.
Oh, yeah?
Basically, obviously, they can't do a quiz thing. I guess they could, but it'd be much worse. So they kind of changed the storyline a bit, and it's mostly just the vignettes, but they're handled a lot better, I think, in the manga. They change which things they show. I think a lot of their choices are a lot more poignant. Like a lot of the stuff's more resonant. They expand on a few things. It's definitely one of the, I think, the most recommended chapters of the manga to check out. So we'll definitely, once we finish up the end, we'll definitely come back and take a look at those to get a little bit more information about that.
I think the thing about all of the quiz stuff for me isn't even the only value I got out of this wasn't in the interactions with the characters interacting with Angie, but the conversations they have when she leaves after they give her the puzzles. Like these weird acknowledgments of everything that happened inside the cat box.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Well, I am intrigued. Let's go.
Yeah.
Buckle up, sister.
All right, let's jump to it. Our story resumes in the guest house, where the cousins all play cards together. Angie, who had been sleeping until now, arrives to tell everyone that dinner is ready, and everyone heads to the mansion for the Halloween party. Eva, who had apparently always wanted a daughter, shares an umbrella with Angie, and the two of them become fast friends. Arriving at the mansion, the main hall has been set up for a buffet with tons of Halloween-themed decorations. Beatrice welcomes Battler and Maria, already a little tipsy from drinking with Kinzo after Battler had left. In a solemn ceremony, Kinzo officially returns to Beatrice the 10 tons of gold her grandmother had loaned the Ashurmia family. Kinzo also announces his retirement as head of the family and the disbursement of the adult siblings' inheritance, noting that while this will resolve all of their money troubles, they will now have to fly on their own. With no more need to fight over money, the siblings all vow to work together to make the Ashurmia family even more prosperous. Even though Angie knows the adult siblings are supposed to have had terrible relationships with each other, even she is touched by this display of love and happiness between them. She tells Battler that she won't fall for this farce. The only thing that can make her believe that this is true would be for Battler to say it in red, but Battler just says, "Is everything you can't say in red a lie?" While Battler as the game master could use the red truth, that was only a rule of the witch's game. In the human world, truth is something that a person has to believe and accept for themselves. Battler wants Angie to understand this and use her own heart to accept the truth as truth, but that is a decision only she can make for herself.
I was going to mention like religion and stuff like that, but it's like, is everything you can't say in red true? But I think you don't have to go down that road. You can just talk about faith in something, faith in a belief, which is clearly where the theme of this is heading, and how you use that to persevere or grow or exit a lifetime of drama or trauma, things like that. And I just really love the way that Battler is trying to present this, like doing his utmost to be like, at the end of the day, I have to do everything possible to, show her the situation and not overly influence a decision. Like she has to make a choice, and it can't be one made because she knows it's what I want her to make. It's lost a little bit in that we, the player, are getting that conversation. And then that's going to influence what is likely going to be our choice for her. And we'll see if that's what it is or not. But just the setup here, right? Like one thing I am enjoying about this episode thus far is I can foresee the narrative structure that it's going to take. At least I think so. Whereas with the previous 7, you can't really kind of guess what's coming next.
Yeah, once you get to the end, you kind of work backwards a lot more and see, like, well, we know kind of what they have to do.
Yeah.
So you just see what they're trying to set up here.
I think I kind of like what it's doing with this. Truth is what you decide is true based on your perception of, like, the hearsay you have access to, because you can never have a way of knowing what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I get what Battler's trying to do here. I feel like what he is showing Ange is almost like an overcorrection to combat the, like, over a decade of disparaging rumors, I guess, she's heard about her family. So I don't know. Jury's still out on whether or not, like, this is working as a whole for me, but I do think it's interesting how it's playing with, like, perception and also, like, I mean, maybe neither of these extremes are completely true, but the real truth is probably a messy combo of a lot of this stuff, kind of a deal. So
yeah, it's interesting that the story it's kind of gone 180 from, like, the earlier parts, where it's like there is the red truth. Truth is the subjective thing that exists. And now they're saying, like, well, yeah, that was fiction. Like, this is real life. No, truth doesn't really exist, which is such a really interesting take, because, like, I feel like a lot of things are like, no, truth is real. It's this real thing that you can really know. Facts exist. And it's like, well, how much of that can you really know, right? Like, there's a lot of just the nature of our reality that we can never really pin down a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we take as being objective and true that we just simply can never know to that degree. And this isn't to say that you should throw out, the concept of truth in, like, the casual sense, but I think it's important to understand that, like, there's a lot of the stuff that we do in our everyday life that is, you have to take on faith to a degree, because we are all, experiencing the world through such subjective lenses all the time. And there's no, like, information is so subjective. Just there's so much of it, you can't really tell what's true and what's fiction. I love the idea that it's looking back on, like, when you're looking at Ange's world, looking back on the past, and she's just been bombarded with so many truths. You could pick out any number of those and construct your own completely fabricated view of the situation, right? It really is just like the True Crime podcast of the Ushirimiya family, and it's like, here's our spin on what happened. And it's, whereas there's no way to know what actually happened there, and even her own memories are getting overwritten by these falsehoods. And so I think what Butler's trying to do here is really important to keep in mind in terms of the falsehood of our memories, and the fragility of all that. I think so. I think the story is doing something really interesting in terms of, like, what it has to say about these things. It's so strange, like, coming from the previous parts of the story, where it felt like, oh, this is a logic puzzle. There's, like, strict rules, and now we're kind of saying, like, no, that's not really what the story is about at all anymore. And I think touching on, like, religious aspects is very much a good call. Like, I think episodes 7 and 8 really do kind of move definitely from more of a logic. Like, 5 and 6 are definitely more of, like, in the there's strict fact-based reasoning possible, and now 7 and 8 are really trying to move into the space of, like, well, how do we actually treat belief, and what is more important about these things in terms of how it affects our actual lives? Are facts the most important things, or are beliefs the most important thing? So,
well, I mean, I think that's been the through line the entire time, right? Because what is magic if not that belief, that faith? Because we've talked about it before.
Sure.
And it is still a fascinating part of all of this. I think what's also interesting too is it's like we just spent 7, episodes obsessed with, finding the culprit, finding the solutions to all of these locked rooms and puzzles, and finding out exactly what happened. And now this also seems to imply to me, like, what good is knowing the exact truth if it's not going to change the outcome of your life? It's not going to change what happened to you. What kind of peace is knowing going to bring you beyond what you yourself can fully believe based on what you remember about your family? So,
yeah. I think it's a big part of what George and Jessica are trying to impart to Ange in their segment. So we'll talk more about that when we get to that.
I mean, you can't really. You have to let go. You have to learn to let go of it, right? Like, you don't find, or I don't think many people find peace in truth. I don't think I've ever met anybody who does. Like, if anything, there is. everything about this is contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
Because even as I'm like trying to speak, I'm like, no, but like sometimes the sense of relief you get when you finally learn what actually happened, but then what if that isn't actually true and that's just what they're saying what happened just to make you feel better, but also, oh man, you could go around in circles forever.
It's complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what Angie has to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just accepting what has happened, even if you don't fully understand it, and deciding how you move forward.
Yeah. That's all you can do, right?
Yeah. Well, there is the option of digging your heels in, which is very self-damaging, which is probably the option that is taken most often throughout the course of history with humans. But the only way the only option that is a healthy option is to just accept I can't change what has happened. I can only change what comes next.
Actual wise words.
Damn it with fate praise there.
Hayley is not actually a jerk to me most times, but we will always play it up for the bit.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tell myself every time we're done hanging out.
It's just a bit.
The truth would hurt too much. You must comfort yourself with these lies, yes.
Yeah, well, I'll just move on past it.
Yeah. All right. The Halloween party then begins in earnest, and everyone eats and mingles. After Beatrice shows off some magic that Ange calls tricks, everyone begins showing off the various tricks, quizzes, and riddles they've accumulated over the years, much to Ange's delight. Battler and Beatrice watch on as Ange enjoys the party and hope that some of that joy is reaching the Ange of 1996. That their game had been responsible for so much of Ange's suffering was a sin that they would have to make up for together, and this final game was a part of that.
Make up for it forever, as in maybe they're going to raise Ange now, and that was the theory we had so very long ago. Yeah?
I'm trying to think of like you said, like Eva is not Eva? Or...
No. I don't think any one of us have suggested the theory that Eva is secretly.
That would be something. That's why they call her Eva Beatrice, because, yeah.
No, I think the theory is that Amakusa is Battler, Featherine is
Isayo, sure.
Yeah, I think that's
I don't
the theory
subscribe
we
to
toyed
this theory.
with. I mean, we have said it, and then if it ends up being true, we can say, look how clever we are.
It's definitely a thing that we have said at some point.
Gohda gathers everyone, presents a lovely chocolate cake that Kinzo tells everyone one slice of which contains an almond. Whoever chooses the slice of the cake with the almond in it would become tonight's king and be granted a single wish everyone else would do their best to fulfill. Ange, as the youngest, is the first to pick, and we the player are granted the first choice we ever get to make in this 100-plus hour visual novel. But, much like Beatrice, we are locked into a dead-end fate, finding the almonds no matter what slice we pick. Oh, the many tales we could have weaved where Dr. Nanjo finds the almond. Oh, what might he have wished for? Sadly, we'll never know. However, it would seem that Gohda has made a mistake. Not only did Ange's slice contain an almond, but so too did Eva's. Eva graciously agrees to let Ange be the princess, and she will serve as her attendant instead. Ange wants to wish for this fun time together with her family to go on forever, but instead comes out as wishing for them to all continue what they had been doing before this, sharing tricks and riddles. Everyone will prepare a quiz or riddle for Ange, and for each one she gets correct, Kinzo will give her a medal. The more medals she gets, the better prize she will get when the Halloween party ends, i.e. you get a different achievement trophy depending on how many of them you get correct, as this is indeed an actual quiz for the player. In addition to those medals, the reader is also rewarded with an additional heartfelt scene where the person or persons giving Ange the quiz tie up some loose ends of the narrative and try to impart something to Ange.
I feel like these are really interesting because they corroborate the stuff that we've already seen as being true, generally speaking. So...
Yeah, some of them kind of read like, here's a question I got a lot asked as the author, so I'm just going to tell you straight up, here's this one direct question answered.
Sure. Like the secret that Rudolf needed to share before he got killed and everything.
Which, to be fair, I think it's good they made that explicit, because that is one of like the ones that like...
I am glad that got confirmed.
It's so like, once you hear the theory, you're like, well, of course that's what it is. Like, it's so correct that it almost feels superfluous to see it confirmed, but also it's like, it does need to be confirmed because it is not actually stated.
We'll talk about it when we get there, because I realize your summary talks about all of the pairs individually.
Yeah.
All I'll say is, out of these, I think the only one of these that doesn't super work for me is the one you're about to read now, is Kinzo's, but...
Sure. Kinzo declares that he will go first, and Eva, noticing that Ange is anxious that everyone is going to bully her with difficult riddles, promises that she will help her as the princess's attendant. Kinzo's question has to do with Christmas. When Ange gets it correct, we get an aside where he asks Genji if he has successfully managed to act the part of a good grandpa. It would seem that the family members who populate this board are not mere pieces, but perhaps something more. Kinzo worries that Ange will only remember what she is told about Kinzo, and not his true self. Beatrice comments that children rarely recognize the kindness that is shown to them, expecting it as a matter of course, but that someday she will surely remember the smile that Kinzo once showed her.
Okay. And this is where I feel like Battler is like almost overcorrecting with this. Because while, again, I can buy Kinzo being a good grandfather and a doting grandfather and like probably giving his grandchildren gifts as is expected of grandparents. I can't, maybe this is just a personal hang up, a personal read of his character, but I don't imagine him like hanging out with the kids or throwing a party like this where he's like entertaining their whims. And maybe he was that kind of a person at some point, but it's a little bit confusing to me because if we're to expect that he kind of went off the deep end when baby third generation Beatrice went over that cliff 18 years ago, then would he have ever been this kind of fun-loving, doting grandpa in any of the grandchildren's lifetimes? I don't know. So,
yeah.
It's like maybe this in a different world, he could have actually been like this. Like he has the capacity for this as a person, which sure, I mean, I believe that. But did any of the kids actually ever experience it in life? That's what I have a hard time believing. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. His characterization as being this like recluse that kind of lost his mind is shown to us not just in like the fantasy segments, like that's implied in other parts of the story as well. Like in parts of the stage part where Sayo is explaining her backstory, and they're like, and they asked Kinzo why they hired this young servant, and he just said Beatrice. And it's like that's canonical. Like that's not like a. So yeah, you're right that there's some disconnect I think between how much Kinzo had lost his mind at what point in the story versus would he have ever actually been able to be a doting grandfather to Ange or Maria?
I mean, none of his kids seem to talk with any like nostalgia, like any kind of affection at all. Like, there's no glimpse of it that we had seen really earlier. Like, there were mentions of their mother seemingly being kind, but while we don't necessarily always get Kinzo's the big old weirdo, we also don't get the opposite. Like from the kids' mouths, I mean, from his children's perspective. So, yeah.
I think there's two things I want to say. One is that it is fairly common to see the narcissistic or abusive parents then turn around to be loving and doting to their grandchildren.
Sure.
And what happens is that their kid becomes resentful. So I was kind of more expecting any of the adults to be frustrated that I feel like that would be a valid way to sell this version of Kinzo, is have the kids kind of be like, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want my kids to have to deal with it, but this is bullshit. This is frustrating. Or I talked to dad about this years ago, and just some sort of acknowledgement, like just because this isn't the Kinzo we the reader expected doesn't make it any less valid. And then point number two is that as far as the cat box goes, characters can only display traits that are plausible for them to have given. So if this episode still follows that, and this episode does feel like it comes with an asterisk,
sure,
that means this version of Kinzo either was or could have been if he had not died, had tried, had wanted to be that person. He had the capacity in him.
Right. Yeah.
And if he had the capacity and didn't do it, that makes him even more of a tragic person who kind of created his own fate.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is like I believe that he had the capacity to be this person, but if he went crazy when baby Beato died, which would have been before Battler was born, George would have been the only one old enough maybe to have ever gotten the doting grandfather part of him. So, yeah. And I mean, the entire point of this episode is that it is all about Ange, and it is all about giving Ange the love that she never felt that she received from all of these people. So I'm not expecting it to be realistic, but I mean, what is realistic, quote unquote, in all of this again. But I'm basically expecting it all to be that, where it's like, I bet that if all of these people could put aside their egos and love each other, this is what it would be like. But that's just not the narrative we've had until now. So it's like this complete 180. And once again, I feel like it's overcorrecting, and the reality of what all of these people were is something messier and more muddled in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Battler seems to be trying to condense like an entire lifetime's worth of familial love into like one evening to try and like give Angie the reminder of what that was like. Also on the point of them, their actions as pieces, there's the implication that these are not just regular pieces, that these are like meta pieces of them, or like something along those lines, because they're Kinzo says like he's acting the part of her grandfather, like he is deliberately choosing to fulfill a role that Battler's set out for him, as opposed to just like this is piece Kinzo that has been designed like this. So
yeah, the continuity of memories makes this fascinating, and you can, I guess, narrow that down to this is Battler's game, and he wants his family to be who they really are, which means facing the things that they were capable of and trying to come to terms with it. And we see some people are able to do it, and some people have really struggled with that. And I think that's a very poignant way of showing how grief can overwhelm somebody and always be present with somebody, and other people find their way through it. And that's just life.
Ange decides to do Hideyoshi's quiz next, and he presents her with a riddle about a sequence of objects floating down a river. Eva then gives Angie her own riddle about a person traveling different directions but ending up back where they started. After getting them both correct and collecting her medals, Angie dashes away, and Hideyoshi consoles Eva over her failings to not let her own grief destroy the relationship she and Angie could have had in the future. Even Kyrie and Rudolf thank her for suffering for so long for Angie's sake, and that someday Angie will surely recognize that.
I do want to say, I know I'm generally a future Ava hater because I am firmly Team Angie, and they were at odds. But I do feel like she's a character I've gone back and forth on over the course of the story. But in general, I've always found their relationship to be this just tragic thing. Much like Battler and Beatrice's entire thing. It's like gothic tragic romance, you know? The entire thing is a tragedy. It's not either of their faults. And it's understandable why Ava, even though she's the adult in the situation, would buckle under that kind of loneliness and pressure. But yeah, I like that Ava gets kind of this redemption here.
Yeah, like obviously, yeah, she obviously held more responsibility towards things going wrong because she has more agency as the adult there, but that doesn't mean that she can magically shake off the insane amount of trauma that was hoisted upon her, and that especially has to do with her relationship to Angie directly, right? It's not like this was just generically like, oh, she also lost everybody. She lost everybody because of something that Angie's parents did, and it's directly tied to her having to then parent Angie, and so it's somewhat understandable that like she was not able to do the thing that she felt she should have. And then we can all see that she probably should have. After Angie enters Gohda and Kumasawa's food-based riddles, the two of them lament that Angie, having been denied warmth, will be unable to break free of her shell and grow. However, as Kumasawa says, words cannot be given. They can only be accepted. If Angie could just be honest about her one single wish that she desires more than anything else, then she will surely be able to make it come true. After all, people have the power to create their own futures by the strength of their emotions. That one's an interesting one, because do we have anything that talks about what like Angie's true one wish is, really? I thought it was an odd thing to kind of bring up out of nowhere from Kumasawa there.
Seems to be changing.
I feel like the only inkling we've gotten of what it might be so far is to get her family back. Or find out what happened on that day.
There's definitely two things she's wished for at different times. Like I think in episode 4, we get a lot of Angie backstory when she's at St. Lucia Academy, whatever it's called, and talking with, I think it's Mammon, and she's like learning to summon because she wants to be able to summon her family. So that's definitely one of them. And then yeah, obviously, like a lot of the point of this episode is that wish is being eclipsed by her wish for the truth, which is being eclipsed by her wish for Eva to suffer specifically.
It's hard to say. I don't think she has verbalized what her wish is because I don't think she's found the words for it. Like I think she probably wants to let go. I think she probably wants to move on with her life. And there's a lot of conflict in dealing with extended family because she's now one of the richest people ever.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the story could do whatever it wanted with that, right? Like if it came out then and they chose any one of those options and it's revealed that's what the secret one wish was, I think you could make it work. I mean, that's the nature of writing.
I mean, based on the verbiage as well about she needs to be honest about her one wish that she desires more than anything else. It's something that she is unaware of or in denial about. And so it's not something she's wished for already. And it could be to let go, I don't know, or believe that her family was good, accept that her family was good. I don't know.
We shall see. I just thought it was interesting. It was kind of like the story kind of like took a little pin in that. So I needed to make sure that we noted that one. Ange then moves on to Dr. Nanjo and Genji. Dr. Nanjo asks a question about ambulances that is impossible for non-Japanese speakers, and Genji asks a trick question about candles. After Ange leaves, Valor comes over to talk to Kinzo and Genji. He's surprised that Genji had used such a tricky question, and Kinzo confirms that Genji is constantly using his stern demeanor to fool people. Valor asks what sort of relationship Kinzo and Genji have, and the two of them explain how they were childhood friends in Taiwan. After the war, Kinzo had tried to help Genji and his family escape the mayhem that followed, but only Genji himself actually managed to do so. Genji then decided to spend the rest of his life in service to Kinzo to repay that debt. When they are alone together, they still treat each other as old friends. Also, they were clearly lovers. Like, pretty much every line of this text in the sequence is dancing around that fact, and there's no reason to be written like this if that wasn't what Rikishi was trying to make us think. The Battler even asks what their relationship is.
I screamed.
That Kinzo gets permission from Genji before saying anything. That Kinzo laughs when Genji says that he knew him. Yeah, in the biblical sense, I bet. And of course, that for some reason, Battler finishes off the segment by being like, it would be rude to ask for more details. Like, he's afraid that if he keeps talking to them, they're going to reveal which of them tops.
Oh my god, this is why Runaway is a fantastic, fabulous gay man. Sayo saw it the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And a schemer.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Genji's always been a schemer.
I think Runaway is meant to be like what Genji is like, kind of like secretly hiding or behind the scenes, what he's actually like, or what he's like when you're closer to him.
It does explain a lot of Genji's motivations with Sayo.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I'd forgotten the scene or how explicit it was. Like when I was saying previously, I think the Genji was probably gay and in love with Kinzo. That was like a theory, but I got to say, I was like, oh right, they basically say it. Like they don't literally say it in this part, but like there's no reason to write it like this if that's not what you want the readers to think.
The moment he said they were friends in Taiwan, I was like, oh, so they're like gay, like lifelong gay.
That's the euphemism. Well, we're friends from Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
I love this for Kinzo.
That's you know what? That's just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So when they would have met after the war?
They met before the war because Kinzo grew up in Taiwan and Genji is from Taiwan.
Yeah, like almost their entire lives gay.
This gives us so much more to work with when in terms of like
fan fiction, yeah.
Fan fiction. Basically. Yes. The universes that can be created.
You know, they say it takes two to create a universe. So.
And which is why we don't hear about the mother of these children, because she's not Kinzo's true love. It's Genji.
Genji was their true mother the whole time.
Yeah.
The scene, the flashback we get with Evo, where the scene ends with Genji carrying her out of the room.
Mama Genji.
Not subtle, I guess, in hindsight. And the Kinzo apologism from Genji is also like, oh
yeah.
Yeah, you'll turn a blind eye to the actions of the person you love.
I mean, I won't, but I'm high and mighty like that.
Well, you aren't friends with someone from Taiwan, so.
That's where we draw the line. Natsuhi and Krauss are next and give color and number-based riddles. Krauss, the pathetic man-child that he is upset that Ange was able to solve a riddle that apparently stumped him when he was her age. After Krauss and Natsuhi hand over their medals and Eva and Ange move on, Beatrice comes over to talk to Natsuhi about how great of a mother-daughter pair Eva and Ange make, even though they are not so directly by blood. This causes Natsuhi to anguish over her rejection of Beatrice as her own child 19 years ago. However, Beatrice does not despise her. That she continues to hold so much regret and sorrow for her actions is more than enough. Hugging Natsuhi and calling her mother, Beatrice thanks her for worrying so much for her sake.
Love this.
Yeah, it's a really good scene.
It just made me so happy.
Yeah, this was...
Wait, does it actually come across nicely? Because in this Kyle reading it out, I'm like rolling my eyes.
No, it's very sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes across as very genuine. It comes across as very tense because it's clear that even throughout the end of the scene, Natsuhi is not fully open to it, like to like letting herself move on past it.
And she never will. That's the point.
Right.
To be fair, she did murder somebody.
Yeah.
But from Beato, it does not feel sarcastic in the slightest.
No.
It is like,
Okay.
I'm not going to harp on this, but
Yeah.
this is truly how I feel.
Yeah, it's like genuine redemption for Natsuhi. Which as a day one Natsuhi defender made me very happy because it again, very similarly to Ava and Ange, although to even more of an extreme considering infant and caretaker. But it's not unlike that, right? Where Natsuhi herself has also been traumatized so much that she has this.
They make sure to go to dig in at Kinzo, it pretty much being Kinzo's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. Beatrice basically shifts the ultimate blame to Kinzo, which is great. Fuck that guy. But I do think it is just and like true that it's kind of left as this thing as like Natsuhi will bear this cross forever, but that is also the reason that Beatrice can forgive her because like I mean if she didn't feel bad about it, she wouldn't be worth forgiving. But yeah, it's like this you will never fully escape the evil that you do, but you can move on from it in certain ways.
Yep, it is a lovely scene. One of my favorites from this part of the reading for sure.
This is one of the two scenes that really hit me hard. It shows Beatrice as a great foil to Ange in this episode as well, right? Like Beatrice, when she talks about like moving on, letting go, this interaction shows that she's speaking from the heart.
Yeah, I think she has the right mix of like there's still some bitterness there. It's not like fully forgiven. There's still a lot of genuineness in the way that she forgives Natsuhi and the connection they form after that. So
I mean, like for me, I mean this I finished the reading literally like minutes before we started recording, and I'm kind of going through something a little like this with my own parents. The main difference is that they don't exhibit the remorse. Like they've apologized for things, but
Yeah.
it kind of just feels like words, So I'm trying to see like what would it take for me to move on the way that Beatrice has in this moment, and because like she says, like the only reason I don't hate you is because I see that you have the regret, you have the remorse, you want to, you don't know how, but you want to be a better person. And if you've got someone like that in your life who doesn't have that drive, or they think that things should be or are fine, so they don't need to be remorseful, how do you go back through and dig all that stuff up to forgive? So, I mean, you're looking at an instance where this person has plotted murder of the whole family, has and gone through with it how many times. We've seen, at least 4, 5, whatever. It's kind of left open to airs more. Kind of cathartic, I guess, in a way. That I can't even want to do, let alone fathom being able to.
Sure. Yeah, too much planning, too much work.
Too much, yeah. Ugh.
Where are you going to get that many explosives?
Where are you going to be personalities? I mean, the scrapbooking, it's just ridiculous. My teenage girl years are behind me, or teenage boy years, as the case may be for Sayo.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like I think those sorts of things that I'm dealing with, and kind of looking at the future with my own kids, my own family, just like this episode so far, for me, is definitely hitting the buttons. Because like as much as I love Umineko and have enjoyed pretty much all of this experience with y'all, now that we have the answers and I'm reflecting back on it, I don't really care about the mystery so much. I mean, this genuinely comes down to a character-driven story, not so much a plot-driven one. And with all the conversation we've had of how everybody here kind of sucks in their own way, except Battler, real ones stick together. It's just, I don't know. That's what good stories do, is they make you feel and they make you self-reflective and they make you think. and getting all this pushed back at you in episode 8 has been. I've been enjoying it, even though it's like presenting me to push myself with some uncomfortable emotions. It's good. It's human.
Yeah.
So
Battler definitely sucks in his own way too.
I mean, he just loves his cousin so much.
3 thoughts from what you said. First of all, you were Gohda-ing us with that comment. Capelli about Battler not sucking.
Yes, Hayley.
Thank you. And then I've now forgotten the second one because it was in the middle, and that's how my brain works. But the first one, how do you, if somebody doesn't feel remorse, I find it helpful to pity them.
Okay.
It is so sad that they don't have it in themselves. Like, what are they missing from themselves to not have the empathy to understand that what they did was terrible? I feel so bad for you, and I forgive you. But that's what, for me personally.
I don't know if I could use the emotion of pity and forgiveness at the same time on my parents.
No, I get it. I know I do. I mean, inside, I'm like, I pity you, but then that can lead to, for me personally, an external. And I'm glad you got so much out of this, Capelli, and thank you for sharing. That's some personal stuff there.
And that's only so far.
I remembered. Told you this was nobody gives a shit about the mystery. That was the second thing.
Yeah, it turns out this mystery novel doesn't end up giving a shit about the mystery. How's that for a trope diversion?
Yeah, it's true. Umineko is just a ridiculous story. I love so much of what it does. Like, and it's so cool that's how good literature works, right? Like, where you are in life when you read it is you're bringing half of a book to a book. That's how it's supposed to work. So it's cool to see that being the case for a VN, which is not something that's considered like high art normally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Umineko managed to just actually achieve that in some regards for its medium. And there's nothing wrong with liking the mystery side of things too. So
sure, I mean they're fun. But once you get the solution, it's just like I can't go back and unknow that.
Yeah, it's a deconstruction of the genre, right? It's trying to do a lot with that premise.
It really is, and I think it does a good job. And I was thinking a little bit ago, like how Apple's Raven and what's the other logical strategy that's presented to us around the same time?
Temple's Raven is the one that I remember because it's the one that they get so wrong.
Either way, all those end up being presented as super important and then are just super immaterial.
Yeah.
They're never used in the sense to like, I've solved your riddle, or I've caught you in a contradiction, because it's just wordplay. It's just metaphysical swords.
Hey, George talks about priori possibilities in this episode.
But I mean, I wouldn't consider them the same.
No. I do wonder if like Rikushi got like so much shit about the Hippo Raven stuff. It's like, I got to get this right one time. Okay, what can George say?
Yeah.
I'm just glad you've all finally seen the light.
Yes, me too. It explains why I was just so like devastatingly bored through all of the mystery stuff, because it's clearly not where the talents of the author lie.
I think this generally is somewhat of a case to that. I think that the mystery part is probably, I mean, it is masterfully done in a way, but I do think that the author's real heart is in the character-driven storytelling and like trying to get across these emotional, heavy things.
Even what we know about his background as a person and his social work and everything, how he's worked with kids who've gone through trauma, which means you kind of have to understand adults, how they respond to kids. That's been the driving factor in everything, how one person interacts with starting with Kinzo as a youth, and how the clan handled him, and the first domino flips and here we are. It's just clearly what he knows. And I'll always remember in high school, my English teacher told me, she's like, the reason that Shakespeare was so popular is because he truly understood the human spirit. And without Shakespeare in our modern day lives and everything that he or they, depending on what you believe, has inspired, you can look at so many of Shakespeare's works as an adult today, an educated adult, and say, "Yeah, that's not groundbreaking in the grand scheme of things." But back then, there was no way to compare yourself to your common man unless they were literally your neighbor.
Mm,
Yeah.
I agree. Rikoshi 07, the Shakespeare of our time.
I don't.
Well,
A little
let's slow
bit.
down.
The impact of his story, what it could have, is there, but you can't compare a guy to 140-hour story compared to someone who wrote how many plays.
Anytime you're comparing someone to Shakespeare, you're kind of just like fucking around. Like it's such a strange thing to try and do.
Listen, I went back. I showed Umineko to Shakespeare, and he was like, "I can't read this."
He was really into the fact that he wanted to touch his cousin's boobs, though. It was his favorite part.
So he loved Battler so much,
I will say this is a fairly notorious VN as far as they go in terms of like the crossover impact I feel like it's had. Because, it's not like mainstream popular or anything, but I do know that there are Zoomers in this day and age reading it for the first time, starting it in the year of our Lord 2026. I am acquaintances with one such Zoomer. They exist.
It occasionally breaks through because it legitimately has lasting impact. I think people really appreciate it, and it's never. I don't think it's ever going to be mainstream, but it is one of the most famous VNs for sure. I think it deserves it,
and it has this reputation as being at the top of the form, which I think is well deserved, even if sometimes it's driving me insane. But it speaks to like everybody. There's so much to find here for so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people will say like, "Oh, Umineko is like the greatest piece of media they've ever read." I this is my personal favorite story. And to be fair, like a lot of people who say that, maybe they should read some more books. Let me be fair, it is really good, but
you've got to read as much as Battler.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you've read 60 books a year, I wouldn't call yourself a reader. Is all I'm saying. So
yeah. He's not pompous. He's just well educated.
Your coastal intellectual elitism, Kyle.
Yeah.
As you say this from Central U.S.
Yeah. from Texas. But also, don't at me if you love Umineko and think it's great literature. It is. I think it legitimately is. But also, I think sometimes people give it some praise that maybe they should, read some of the greats as well. And then they can, have some perspective.
Do at me. I'll fight you. I obviously have enjoyed it. I wouldn't still be here.
I feel like you can't really appreciate Umineko until you've done a lot of other reading because of the way it is so self-reflective within its own genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really does. It draws a lot from classic mysteries, and it is the story. The story is a lot about traditional Japanese mysteries, but even if you don't have that specific background, you still get a lot from knowledge of classic mysteries from like the Sherlock Holmesian and Agatha Christie style stuff as well. And of course, it draws from a lot of like biblical literature and like Dante. There's a lot of literature stuff that's pulled in here. I mean, I think like I give Umineko a little shit for its writing, but legitimately, there's a lot of really great pulls in terms of literary background in Umineko. I think it's pretty impressive.
I would love to be able to interview Ryukishi and just like get to know his life experiences, his inspirations, what drew him into his social work background and what he's been through. All of that would be so fascinating.
So, pitch for the next Umineko podcast and Off Meta Plays. If somebody out there knows Ryukishi, I would love for him to listen to our take. Oh man, I'm full of regret. Already haven't even finished my sentence. Would love to him to listen to our episodes and have like a Ryukishi reacts
oh boy
to these assholes on the internet.
He would get so sick of us so fast.
I'm sure he's got 60 to 100 hours just listening through. He'd get through a few episodes being like, I don't know English. I'm sure he does know.
Oh boy. All right. Shannon and Kanon are next, and absent-minded as usual, Shannon has forgotten to prepare a question. To stall for time, Kanon gives a very difficult question about gold coins that Ange is far too young to be able to answer, so Eva answers instead. Shannon then gives her food quiz that manages to stump both Kanon and Eva, but Ange quickly figures it out. Out in the hall, Shannon and Kanon discuss the nature of the cat box that awaits them all once this game finishes. While they themselves will not be the ones experiencing it, a version of themselves will be able to exist in a world where all possible futures and loves can coexist at once. Wanting to resolve their own inner conflict before that time comes, though, the two of them decide to go forward with their duel. However, this time, it will be a fun quiz tournament. So this is definitely one of the segments I think is weakest, right? Like there's so much you could do between Shannon and Kanon. Maybe the author thinks they've said enough. This is either unnecessary or not enough, in my opinion.
Well, it also, in the context of this dream game that Battler has created where everything is nice and happy and Shannon and Kanon can exist at the same time in the same room, apparently. Also at the same time and in the same room as Beato as a third entity. Like,
Yep.
I guess they're theoretically talking about like the other versions of the game that they were in. So why do they have to duel in this one? I don't know. Yeah, it feels tacked on.
Yeah, I mean, I did feel like they needed to do something where they weren't in kind of like a day's La La Land, like they were talking to Battler if he was cool.
Oh, Will.
Yeah, like a day's almost trance or comatose, almost like state with Will, right? So I'm glad we kind of got that, but there's nothing about their interaction that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Wish there was just a little bit more there, a little weak. I'm trying to recall if the manga section is better. I don't recall for that one, but I'm talking too much about the manga. That's going to be a separate thing. So, Rosa and Maria are up next. Rosa gives a weirdly morbid question about transporting gold ingots before Rokkenjiima explodes, and Maria gives an extremely tricky wolves and sheep puzzle from her book. That one even stumps Eva, but Ange manages to figure it out. Afterwards, Sakataro and Maria talk about how Ange is terrible at finding the fragments of happiness, even though they're all around her. Beatrice appears and explains that it's difficult for a person to cast magic on themselves. Ange has lost the magic of children and has yet to understand the magic of adults, and has no one left to support her in this challenging time of her life. But as Maria says, they're all always by Ange's side, if she can allow herself to see it.
Oh my god, stop my heart. What the?
If we are translating this into kind of like real life, how Ange existed in the world of 1998, like, she is depressed. Ange is a depressed person, to me, is how she reads with this. If Maria is talking about how she's terrible at finding fragments of happiness, even though they're all around her, Ange is just so traumatized and depressed, which is like, all they can do is root for her and hope from the other side, essentially, that she can one day find her way back to remembering how to find that happiness, because they can't do it for her and they can't teach her how anymore because they're not around anymore. But yeah, it really hit me.
Yeah, that line's a call back to episode 4 when, Ange is reading Maria's diary that she must have gotten after the accident. She got it from the stuff that was left after everyone was dead. Reading through Maria's diary and hallucinating about the things that Maria must have been going through, making up this version of Maria. And even in that, when she's conversing with this fake Maria that she's created in her mind, she can't help but uncharitably read all the events in her journal, right? She's like the big conversation that she's having between her and Maria's avatar is that, where in my diary does it say that my mother abused me? And Angie's like, it's right there in between the lines. And, there's obviously a very good argument to be the case that, like, yes, Maria was being abused by Rosa. And that's the kind of the conversation they have is about, like, you're seeking this unhappiness, right? You can read what I wrote here and just say, like, yes, I was happy because I said I was happy. Or you can dig and try and find this truth because that seems to be the way that Ange kind of needed that from Maria's diary for some reason. That seemed to be like she had to find that unhappiness there.
It's probably a connection point for her to feel less alone. If she's like, well, my cousin.
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
And she's desperate for that connection that she doesn't have anymore.
This was the other segment that really got to me emotionally. I'm not totally sure why, right? I have not made it any secret that Maria has not been my favorite character. I liked what they could have done with her, and what they did with her was fine. It fit the story, fit the themes, but she made a great vessel for me to hate her mom a lot. So, but just her farewell here.
Yeah, I have the text if you want me to read it. The last line she says.
Sure. Yeah, I could cry again.
Yeah. Have fun, Ange. So long. The time we spent together feels so long, yet so short. Even so, for me, the memory is eternal.
Yep. Don't know what it is about that, but it chokes me up.
Yeah, it's a beautifully written line.
I think it's maybe the idea of this character who we've literally known as nothing but a 9-year-old girl, if not younger, acting like an adult, or at least maturing, which is, I think it's hard because she's also the only character that's like confirmed dead in the real world.
Right. Maybe she had 2 jaws. Maybe she was just like that.
Yeah, maybe she just never had a jaw and they forgot. Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, I think it kind of just goes again back to parenthood and just being like, my kid is going to probably say some poignant stuff after he says a lot more stupid shit in his life.
Yeah. The other thing I think about why that line particularly is so poignant is because it reminds us how young Maria is, and that like a lot of what we've seen of her is not actually Maria, right? We see a lot of fake versions of Maria, a lot of people's imagined versions of Maria, but Maria did not actually, she only lived 9 years. She didn't really actually get to do all those things. A lot of the stuff we see of her in the story is stuff that's been added on to her after her death. So like we have not seen that much of actually what Maria is like. And it's really lovely seeing her with Ange. Like you get to see her be the big sister, right? In a way, that's the dynamic we never got to see of her at all.
Yeah.
She was always this petulant little child or this weird, creepy witch version of herself. But it's cool to see kind of like what a more normal version of Maria might have actually looked like, what she might have actually been like in reality.
Yeah, that's really hard.
I think, so on hearing you talk about this, Kyle, in your summary here, it especially, Ange has lost the magic of children and has yet to understand the magic of adults, and there's no one to support in this. Childhood is so short and so fleeting, and we don't always appreciate that until we are much older, right? And Maria, a child, okay, yes, an old soul if we think about the passage of time, even as she has been, even since she's died. Like, for Maria to see that loss in Ange, I think is massive and poignant in itself, that Maria can see that Ange is just missing joy and innocence of being free, young girl. Like, she never got that freedom that Maria would have had, at least briefly,
And I mean, we kind of saw that when we saw the dissolution of the Mariage Sorcière, right? Like, that's when Ange is like, we kind of see her lose that at an extremely young age, like before any of this even happened, before Rokkenjiima ever even happened. So Ange was already kind of predisposed to this very literal-minded, kind of almost like harsh view of reality. And this is also why I say, like, I see her as someone who really suffers, not just as a result of all this trauma, but maybe already was predisposed to being like depressed in a way that informed how everything played out. And it kind of informs this fixation she has, this inability to get over all of it that she has. And I do think this is Battler trying to edge her closer to discovering the magic of adults, I guess, if anything.
What do you think the magic of adults is? Because I'm not sure I really figure out what that line is supposed to mean. It's poetic, but I'm not quite sure what they're saying here.
I think it is kind of the ability to make up your mind about something, when to accept the reality and when to choose to believe and accept and have faith in something sight unseen.
Okay.
What a great question, Kyle. Oh my God. What is the magic of adults?
You're right. There's none. Being an adult just sucks.
Fucking sucks.
It goes back to what Battler was saying earlier, right? Like, the quote unquote red truth doesn't exist in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah.
So you have to, just based off your own experiences, based on what you know and what you feel to be true, let that inform what you believe. And
I think there's something to that. Yeah.
Finding peace and nuance in that, I guess.
Yeah. And having the agency to choose what you believe, I think, is also a big part of it, right? Because children don't have that, right? Things are forced upon them.
Yes.
And they're molded, but an adult gets to choose what they believe. They get to choose how they view the world.
And again, going back to this as like Ange's compulsion and desperate need to find out the truth, she is being pulled along by this need to find out what the real truth is, and she can't accept it unless she is given what she what she can accept as the hard truth, and it hasn't occurred to her that she can choose what to believe yet.
Yeah.
Well, if childhood is short, then that means adulthood is long. And that means what you have in childhood is more precious if it's more scarce. And that comes down to innocence, right? So the magic of childhood is the innocence and how you can look at life in a completely different way. So the magic of adulthood is being able to take joy without that innocence, is being able to take the hard times, being able to take the rough times and persevering, making hard decisions, rationalizing yourself into being who you want to be, right? Like, I can't say this is a global truth, but a well-rounded individual is somebody who has made mistakes, has had regrets, has gone back to push themselves to be the person who they enjoy being. And we all know plenty of adults who do not enjoy who they are. I don't think anybody completely enjoys every aspect of themselves, but that's human. So the magic of adulthood is choosing who you want to become. And being content with that is the magic.
I can see that, yeah.
That's nice.
And I think most of the adults in this story would make that claim that they like who they ended up being, even if it's for flawed reasons or embellishing flawed traits, with maybe one or two exceptions.
I was going to say something that kind of is similar to what you have both said, in that the magic of being as an adult is recognizing the magic of the innocence and the fleetingness. It's not a word. That's why I paused so long. Of of childhood and that youth, and using that to make choices for yourself that align with, finding the joy within your life.
Yeah. I feel like tying into like being able to choose what the truth is informs, being able to protect that innocence on a level. When the adults, it's like when the adults play along with the candy under the cup trick.
Yeah.
As being real magic, as demonstrating real magic. They're preserving some of that.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, exactly. Santa Claus. Preserving that innocence, preserving that magic until the child no longer wants to believe it. They choose to stop believing it because they're told otherwise. So
yeah.
The magic of adulthood is that you can spend your own money to go buy ice cream for dinner and no one can stop you.
Exactly. Hell yeah.
That's the real magic for sure.
Well, it is the real magic. It's like, you want cereal for lunch? Go for it. You want pancakes for dinner? That's okay. Sort of. Your body might not enjoy it later in your life.
I ate an entire bag of Reese's Pieces while we've been on this call. No rules, just right. All the magic of adulthood.
I was down in some double stuffed Oreos myself.
I ate half a pint of ice cream just before we joined this recording.
I didn't have dinner. I had a late lunch and Oreos. That's what I've eaten today.
We're all overflowing with adult magic.
So not even breakfast, Capelli?
No, I never eat breakfast. Well, not never. Not on work days.
Most important meal of the day. Goodness, so much magic.
That's not true, by the way. That
I know it's not
big
true.
Breakfast to sell you sugary cereals and maple syrup.
I knew Canada was involved somehow. With only a few medals left to go, Ange returns to Rudolf and Kyrie. Both give simple liar puzzles that anyone who has played Blueprints will be familiar with. Kyrie tells Ange that she will face many puzzles in her life. She reminds Ange that she can rely on her Aunt Ebba, and when she must face challenges alone, to remember the advice of those who are no longer with her that have helped her in the past. And with that, she bids Ebba to take care of Ange. Once Rudolf and Kyrie are alone, Rudolf finally confesses to Kyrie his sin of switching her baby battler and Asuma's stillborn child in order to fix the family situation his infidelity had caused.
Hell yes!
My cat is trying to stop my fist pumping, but I was pumping my fist so fucking hard. Who called it?
Yeah, that was like, oh, all right, sure.
Damn, man, that's satisfying.
Yeah, that's the one thing where I was really excited to be like, finally, thank you.
Yeah, I'd forgotten this was in there. Because I think I said previously, like, yeah, I don't think they ever actually literally confirmed that. I forgot. No, they explicitly do confirm it here in episode 8. Yeah,
kind of makes you rethink a lot of Kyrie's interactions with Battler, because in episode 4, in episode 4, right, the phone call between her and him at the end, right, like, so that was all fake from her. Damn. Damn.
Could have been, yeah. Hard to say. Yeah, so in this segment, I do think this segment is lacking a bit in terms of it's really missing some, I don't know what the right term is for this. Like, there needs to be some recompense, some with Kyrie's statements about Ange at the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just really left like a lot that needs to kind of be resolved, not hit on in this part, which I was surprised by.
Well, because, yeah, that is, I feel like I was one of the only people on the pod last time in the last episode to be kind of defending, like, I absolutely believe this is possible for Rudolf and Kyrie to have done. Because I've kind of been waiting this entire story for Kyrie to have some kind of crazy heel turn, because all of the elements were there and I wanted it. And it was pretty cool. But yeah, if we're supposed to take everything that has happened as some version of true being a sliding scale at this point.
I mean, and that one's truer than most things. I mean, we have
Yeah.
Barncastle giving a red that this is truth ...
Yeah. So, like, yeah, it's weird that the catharsis we get here with Rudolf and Kyrie has more to do with Battler than it does have to do with Ange, who seemingly has the more complicated. I mean, like, actually, Battler also has an extremely complicated relationship with his parents, clearly. But, like, Ange as this lone survivor that they're all doing this for, it's a weird choice that the scene doesn't have more to do with Ange.
Yeah, there's no reckoning for what was really emotionally devastating scene.
Yeah.
Although I guess now that I'm thinking about it, does Battler know that happened?
That's what I was just thinking. You would remember clearer than I do, Kyle. But I don't know that he know that happened, because that was Will in Birdcastle, right?
Yeah, that was Will in Birdcastle and Leon.
But he knows the truth.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, again, I think it goes back to me just being like, I'm just looking at all of this as Battler completely whitewashing and totally overcorrecting for the demeanors of all the people in this family, because none of them are this wholly good either. Like,
sure,
it is not either extreme. So, yeah, but it is, yeah, in terms of a catharsis, a little bit hollow. Because what do you mean Kyrie is going to say all that after never and completely shock us with it, with how evil it is, and then it's just like, yeah, we're never going to address that.
I think I'm going to move forward with the theory that these are the psyches of people who have been in the cat box for a very long time, and they have A, had the chance to grow, and B, understand that this is the one chance to dote on the one member of their family who is missing. And this is your one chance to, like, make a lasting impression or try to impress on them a life lesson, a happy memory, anything. I don't care how messed up you are. If you've been through that and that's what you want to do, you're on your best behavior.
Yeah, I agree. But, like, this is in the conversation that happens after Ange walks away from them. Because Ange also never knew that all of those evil things were said about her. She wouldn't know. She would have no idea. She wasn't there. That's the entire point of this.
I'll Occam's razor and just agree with you. Like, you could make arguments for so many things, how the story should narratively operate in the real world, in the metaverse, whatever. I think until we're shown anything otherwise, yeah, you're just correct.
Yeah. And it's just, it's weird that Rudolf has this come to Jesus moment where he finally admits his sin, but it's interesting that Kyrie is not similarly regretful.
I don't think we can say that. I think we're going to get a scene between her and Battler.
We'll see.
That will answer, like, what did Battler know and how does she feel about it? Because all we see is her being shell-shocked.
Oh, I don't mean about Battler. I mean about what she said about Ange.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's not a scene here for that. We'll see if we get one, but like this seems like where there would have been one and there isn't one, which is kind of surprising.
I mean, we also had the theory that she was lying to Eva for, the sake of, like...
Yeah, but again, I mean, if that was true, why not say that here? This is the part where they say explicitly the answers. So if they were going to make that case, here would be the place to do that. It's odd they just didn't touch it at all.
We got half episode 8 left.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
I'm still waiting for whatever Bern Castle shoe to drop whenever she's going to get involved in this episode. So, I'm...
This part's too happy for
Well,
what we have hanging over our heads.
I have a theory that I want to bring up at the end about her.
George and Jessica are the only ones left besides Badler and Beatrice themselves. They have a rather strange question about posterior probability that is basically the Monte Hall problem. The idea they seem to be trying to impress on Ange is that the information we choose to believe from the future can change the truth of something, even if it is unknown. They implore Ange to hold on to and protect her truth, and not let it be corrupted by every possible thing she might learn in the future. So we got there, bingo, Monte Hall included in the story. If you were doing your pop psychology / math bingo card, blackout by this point, I think. We got Monte Hall.
For those of the audience, and definitely not anybody on this podcast who doesn't know what Monte Hall is, can you please elucidate us?
Sure. So the Monte Hall problem is basically what George and Jessica described. It's based on a classic game show hosted by Monte Hall. And the premise of the game show was that he would have these 3 doors, one of which would have a card behind it, one of which would have a donkey behind it, and one of which would have nothing behind it. And the participant would pick one, and then Monte would reveal one of the other doors that had nothing behind it, and then ask them, or maybe had the donkey behind it, whatever, and then would say, like, do you want to switch or do you want to keep? And for the longest time, people thought that like it was the same probability of switching or keeping, and so the game show functioned. But people eventually figured out that actually, in fact, switching gives you literally doubles your chance of winning because of the mathematical function basically described in this scenario. The reason why this is really unintuitive. A lot of people, you can explain the Monte Hall problem and they just will not get it because it is just that unintuitive. That's the nature of a lot of probability things. Probability is just naturally unintuitive because for some reason humans seem to think that like everything should be intuitive to be true, and that's just not the way it is, unfortunately, which causes a lot of problems because there's a lot of stuff that is completely unintuitive that is true and a lot of stuff that is very intuitive that is not true. And the Monte Hall problem, I think, is a really good example of that. So yeah, the reason why the switching doubles your chances is because you can kind of think of there's 2 major options, right? You initially pick one door, and understandable, there's a 1 1/3 chance that you have selected the correct door, right? That's pretty easy to understand. And then you basically imagine every other door as being the other group package, right? And we understand that in that package, there's a 2/3 chance of that having the correct thing in it. So because Monte knows where the correct door is, he's not just randomly flipping, this one's got the joke surprise or nothing in it. He knows exactly which one to show you. The probability of that package still having the correct answer in there is still 2/3, right? Because he, as the knower of the correct answer, is not actually updating the valid available information. It does not change the probability that the correct one is in that grouping of the other 2 doors. And so that's why switching to that increases your probability from 1/3 to 2/3. It becomes much more obvious that this is true if you imagine, say, 100 doors, right? When you pick one of 100 doors, you have a 1 in 100 chance. But then if Monte revealed 98 other doors that were empty, leaving just one other door, it's pretty easy to see, like, yeah, obviously the correct one is probably that other door, not the one that you picked. But yeah, it's a quirky probability thing. Is it used well here? I think it at least gets its point across. I think it's using its point kind of weirdly. Like, that's not what the Monte Hall problem's about.
You definitely just explained it to me in a way more like, I fully get it now. Reading this, it did not explain to me why that was true, and you just made me understand why it was true. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a classically tricky one, and it gets brought up a lot. Not quite sure if it fits here, right? Like, it's not exactly a 1-to-1 match, but at least like the spirit of the question kind of gets along. It's like, yes, learning about the other doors being empty, learning about information from the future does affect the probability of what you have chosen, the truth that you're holding on to. There's some thematic resonance there, but I don't know. This is a classic. I'm going to bring up a pop, math example to try and explain this thing and do it kind of poorly, which is very Rikishi.
And do it kind of poorly, yeah.
At least you didn't explain it 6 times, right? In a row.
Yeah.
That is true. At least he kept it brief, which I'll be thankful for.
Yep. But yeah, Monte Hall's a fun one. There's plenty of other like weird probability stuff that are kind of funny too. One that's kind of been going around recently that's a fun one to talk about is the son born on Tuesday problem. I don't know if you've heard about this one. Basically, the premise is you meet someone who has 2 children, and they tell you that one of their children is a boy who was born on a Tuesday. What are the odds their other child is also a boy?
fucked. I just found out about this recently. Fucking hate it. I hate everything about it.
Yeah. It took me a long time to come to terms with how this works. The answer is like 47% or something.
Yeah, it's not.
What? What?
So yeah,
how and why do you figure this out?
It's not. It's definitely not 50.
So the spin-off of the question is based off of you meet someone, they have two children, they tell you one of their children is a boy. What are the odds their other child is a boy? Right. That one is like the first step usually when this gets brought up, and that one is interesting because the answer is 1/3, I believe.
Right. Yes, that sounds right.
And so the reason for that is because when you look at the probability square, right? A person with two children, they can have either a boy and a girl and a boy, or a girl and a girl. And because the question says one of their children is a boy, not child A is a boy, what is the gender of child B? It's just one of them is a boy, what are the other one is a boy? You have to kind of include both options of boy girl and girl boy as being possibilities, and that's what increases the chance. And the reason, like the math behind it and why the Tuesday one works is you just make a bigger square, right, with every day of the week. And the reason why it's a smaller chunk, instead of being 1/3, it's closer to 50%, is that there's a smaller part of that graph that is the double counted part, right? Like the only part that's double counted is boy on a Tuesday, right?
Right.
So the more specific of the information that is overlapped is the closer it gets to 50%. And a part of that is because you intuitively think when someone asks, like, oh, what are the odds child's boy? You're like, oh, well, I mean, that's not related to anything else. It's 50-50. It should stay 50-50.
Yeah.
But that's because the question is kind of inherently actually saying, what are the odds with given a boy that there's two boys? It's actually a more complicated probable question than it kind of seems, colloquially at least. So yeah, that was a fun one that kind of popped up. I'm glad you happened to see that same thing, Capelli. So I'm not just crazy talking about what my YouTube algorithm is feeding me.
I mean, you are. Don't discredit yourself.
That's a good one. I like that. I hadn't come across that in the wild. You could definitely, you can math that out. And my first response was, well, it can't be 50. It just can't be 50%.
That is crazy to think that it's 1 in 3, and then Tuesday makes it different.
Yeah.
It seems like it should be completely unrelated, but it technically does change the probability because of the double counting issue.
Math is crazy, you guys. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, probability is one of those classic ones where, like, if you ask anyone, like, oh, what's the probability that, like, if you flip 2 coins, what are the odds that you get, like, no heads or something like that? If you don't have, like, the prior knowledge of how that calculation is done, it's actually really unintuitive.
Yeah.
Like, you have to actually do, like, well, it's 1 minus this. If you try and calculate it with just, like, 50-50 times 50-50, and it's like, well, that doesn't actually math out properly. So it's just a classic example of how unintuitive things that seem really intuitive actually are. And why we should trust the experts and not just go based on, your gut feeling about how the world works. But
yeah, statisticians are really their own breed of people.
Yeah. Or should we say the truth doesn't exist? I don't know. I feel like we're sending mixed messages to the people listening to this podcast at this point. So.
We're just going in circles. Just like Ryukishi. God, get us out.
Oh my God.
Oh, and Ben's going to be upset he missed us talking so in depth about math.
Yep. Maybe I'll see if Ben wants to send us an addendum to attach to this podcast episode. If he does, it'll appear right here.
Great point, Ben. That's so funny.
So knowledgeable.
You can edit that in.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this last little bit of this reading. Only Battler and Beatrice's questions remain. However, it would seem that Ange has tired herself out with all of this excitement and is having trouble keeping her eyes open. Battler decides to let Ange answer their question later, and Ange falls asleep in a chair. When she does so, everyone gathers around, takes turns expressing their hopes that Ange will remember them and this night and find happiness. As Beatrice says, no one would blame her for forgetting these kind memories, as young as she had been. It is not a sin to forget, but to not remember again is. She admits that, of course, everything shown here in this game has been an illusion created by Battler. But as Battler says, that illusion has helped to remind Ange of the truth of her family's kindness and fun. Battler too then bids Eva take care of Ange. However, Eva still can't accept her failings as Ange's adopted mother. Beatrice says that neither Eva nor Ange was to blame for being unable to overcome their own traumas. And while Battler admits he has no right to tell Ange to forgive Eva, he simply asks Ange to try and understand her someday. The one thing that Eva wants to make sure to impart to Ange is that regardless of if she can someday forgive her or not, she does not hate Ange. Battler has Genji place a sleeping Ange on a sofa in the parlor, and next to her he lays a letter from the whole Ishimiya family that reads, "We'll all be with you, always." And of course, I'm sure you all got all the questions correct and received all 17 medals. They also give her a Beatrice doll that the sleeping Ange clutches tightly. The servants left and closed the parlor door. As Ange slept, she was wrapped up in the soft sounds of the rain. Surely she was reliving that fun evening once more in her dreams. And that brings us to the end of this week's reading.
Okay, so there were 3 moments that gave me feels, right? And that was the last
Mm, that was lovely.
It is very affecting to finally see Angie receive all the love that she's been so desperate for this whole time. It's bittersweet.
All right. Do you want to see all the different things you can get if you get different accounts of medals?
Yes, please send images. The Beatrice doll is so cute.
Forgive me if this sounds like I haven't been listening, because I swear I have. I'm just very tired now.
You are Ange, falling asleep.
He didn't actually give us the answers to the puzzles, right? So I could still go in and do them. Okay.
Maybe like
pretty sure
you'll be able to figure out 1 or 2 of them based on what we talked about, but you would have been able to do it anyway.
Okay.
But let's see, the things you can get are, let's see, a toilet brush, a can of mackerel with Kumasawa's face on it.
I want it.
A cushion with the one-winged eagle on it. An old-fashioned swimsuit, like a middle school swimsuit from Japan. A fully ripe mango. A decorative pine branch. The uniform from Angel Mort, which is a reference to Higurashi. A signed poster of Kinzo. A bag that laughs with Kinzo's voice. A one-winged eagle carp streamer. A bouquet of golden roses. A music box passed down through the ages. A mass-produced Sakataru doll. A tea set. A pocket watch. A Beatrice corsage. A Battler doll. And then finally, if you get all of them correct, a Beatrice doll.
Love it. They were all great.
Very odd, very strange. It's just like, yeah, here's this segment where you can just miss a ton of content if you aren't good at answering trivia questions, and the game just doesn't. Why you make that a possibility? It's such an odd choice.
Yeah. I mean, gotta give something for people to save scum for, right?
I guess. Gotta use all 99 of those save slots.
Yeah, I definitely never had the glass shatter on my playthrough of this. Not once. If you go back and try to load your game, it gives you the glass shattering animation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, as a YouTube follower, that is not an issue you have to deal with.
No, it's not. I gave some of these questions the old college try. I'll say I probably got about half of them right, but I was trying to finish this reading on a schedule.
Yeah, same.
Well, I appreciate your efforts.
I heard the undertone.
I was telling you guys before we started that there was probably 3 that I got right. Thinking, oh, I get this. And then they go to the rationale, and I'm like, that is absolutely not what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for a couple as well.
Although a couple of them, I was like, I don't know how I ended up on the same wavelength as you, because this is a little bit insane, but I got there somehow. So interesting.
Yeah, I like a lot of these are most of these are not fair. Most of these are riddles where there's a lot of tricks involved. It's a lot of which makes sense because these are theoretically in the story they're meant to be the things that they've collected over the years that they've been told probably in school as kids. These are those kinds of riddles, which I think is fun.
So I guess our early comment of oh, it would been cool if these riddles went back to previous episodes. I think thematically it's better as is, right? It's just fun for a kid.
Yeah, and again, as I said, there is definitely some thematic resonance here. I think they're doing something. Whether it's the most effective thing they could have done, I don't know.
What 6-year-old doesn't enjoy puzzles about emergency call phone numbers?
Yeah.
I remember when I was in kindergarten, you couldn't get me away from the phone. It was a big problem for everyone.
Yeah. That's why they had to make it 911 so that you wouldn't accidentally dial it as a child. Yeah. The kids crave consecutive numbers.
And the mines.
All right. Well, any thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah. I did have one theory I said I wanted to get to later.
Oh, yes.
So in the scene right after Maria's puzzle, right, where Rose is talking to Maria and then Eva's talking to Angie, and they're both just no, I don't like them. I hate how they play. They're so mean.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
I was just oh my God, I think it was probably Becca who made the connection that I now kind of currently subscribe to, that Bern Castles is standing for Angie and Lambda Deltas is standing for Maria.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I was it just clicked for me. I was I absolutely see what Becca saw. The thing is I really struggled to be to grasp what that means in the meta narrative. How do these characters who are in the story also have this meta? But Battler kind of does the same thing, and how they interact with Higurashi is also weird if you look at that. But I'm just electing to ignore Higurashi for this. I guess like whoever wrote these message bottles, individually or whatever, wrote these characters imagining what these girls' alter egos, right? Like the story lasts forever. The mystery, the myth of the Ushirimiya family lasts, so you can kind of rationalize this meta narrative branch a little bit and how they can fit in. It's just like, I mean, it's just the relationship between Maria and Angie just perfectly fits Lambda and Bern Castle. It just does. They just want to play together forever, but there's also this sense of antagonistic rivalry.
Yes. This is and to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know that they're supposed to be literal translations of one another. Like there's a metaphorical element, I feel like, to the versions to like Bern Castle and Lambda Delta as being like these metaphorical allegories for Angie and Maria. Because if we think of Beatrice as being, Sayo, and in this elevated meta world, she sees herself as Beatrice talking to Battler, and she doesn't literally have Maria and Angie there with her, but Bern and Lambda are these witch stand-ins that you can map a lot of Angie and Maria's characteristics onto. So they kind of seem like stand-ins that Beatrice kind of had to create when Mariage Sorcière broke up almost. But it does feel so direct, like it has to be intentional, but I don't think Ryukishi is really... I haven't gotten anything direct enough to assume that they are literal
I agree.
representations. But yeah, like the connections are so clear to me. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that sees it.
Well, we shall see if that is something that gets explored more in the future. All right. Well, next week, we'll be reading / playing about 4 hours of the VN, ending on the line, "I'll give it to you in red," followed by a statement about a certain book. And that is videos 139 through 143 of the YouTube playlist.
Is this game about to confirm Christianity?
That must be it, yeah.
Stop.
Jesus is the Lord reincarnated, said in red.
I mean, It's longer than the Bible now, right? We know this. Yeah. Umineko is longer than the Bible. Umineko is the new canon. On this, we can all agree.
I mean, Maria's canonically read the Bible. That is absolutely true.
This game is just a very, very deep Christian, what are those pamphlets called?
No, stop.
What is? I forget what it's called.
It's a fake $20 bill, but it's a fake 100+ hour VN, and he gets it back, and it's like, Jesus.
I don't want to invoke that evil.
There's a brochure. There's tiny brochures that they used to give out all the time in the 80s and 70s that basically summarizes the Christian faith way better than that fake dollar bill ever could. And there is a term for them. I just cannot remember.
I feel like the fake dollar bill pretty well summarizes current Christianity. But
there are the little comic ones that were very bigoted, extremely right-wing Christian, and they were named after the guy who drew them, and I don't really want to invoke his name.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know if that's what you're talking about. You might actually be talking about something completely different. You probably are.
They're not like testimonies, but it's whatever. I don't really care.
I don't know the terminology that
it's just killing me that like it's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't.
Yeah, I feel you. I couldn't remember the word reckoning earlier, but luckily, because I'm the editor, I can say reckoning and go and edit that right back in where I was having trouble finding that word. So,
well said, Kyle. So funny.
Make sure you do it a few different ways so you get the right inflection, Kyle. Because if it's not the right inflection, it's not going to sound natural in the sentence.
Oh, bad.
Just say the whole sentence again.
You may as well just re-record the plot summary from the ground up.
I need to be better about whenever I repeat lines in my rereading, because I give it a different inflection every time, and I'm like, why did I do that? Now I have to figure out where I can cut it, where I can get that in there.
That is commentary I gave you before Becca and Hayley joined us.
I know.
And you're like, no, it's fine. I'll get it in post.
And you never did.
Yeah, we made it this far.
Well, I mean, you did get it in post, but like you never corrected the habit.
Oh boy.
Boy, guys, Kyle, I can't believe you still keep us guessing even at this like 11th hour with you. Maybe we'll see. We're still saying that now. Come on.
Yep.
But he's contractually obligated at this point. He can't give up any kind of ghost, even if the ghost is non-existent.
Yeah.
It's a red herring ghost in that case.
It's a mackerel.
It's a mackerel.
It's a mackerel.
And there's still so much more in this story. I'm really excited to get to it. I'm looking forward to y'all getting this next reading. It is, once again, something completely different. So, enjoy.
So ominous.
And thank you for joining us. And remember to think off meta.